All right, we're back. Steve's got a story to tell, and it has to
Yep.
do with loyalty and data and customer experience. Which between you, Steve, and Tati, I can't think of two better people to talk about this. So, Steve, microphone is yours. Tell us a story.
Yeah, I'll try to make this quick. But this is actually was an experience that I had recently. I travel a lot, and this isn't necessarily in the retail space, but I guess hotels are sort of a form of retail for sure. But I was staying with the family spring break at a hotel, not the brand that I am especially loyal to, or there's a few. Won't say any names, but I was staying at a new brand. It was part of their loyalty program, all that fun stuff. But the experience itself uh, left a lot of bad feelings with both myself and my wife. First off, just from the whole check-in process, like it was almost like that I was burdening them, by checking in. I don't know if anybody's experienced this before, but yeah, and
Me, always. Yeah.
right off the bat, I was like, oh, this is not making me feel like warm and positive. And then we had a great stay; it was fine, but there was construction going on at the pool, um, and this was a beach resort. So, and then the family wanted to go down to the beach, and you go down to the beach, and you had to pay a third party for the chairs and then the umbrellas and set all that up. And usually, at a nice resort, that's either part of it, or it's their own service. So now you got to get cash or pay them through Apple Pay or whatnot. So it's a separate thing. And then as you're checking out, there's a huge resort fee, and this has become more common these days. But I asked them, I said, and we had spent tons of money at the bar, at the pool bar, at the restaurants, and typically there's a few ways that those resort fees go about. It's like you have to spend a certain amount of money at the resort and for various different services, and that's fine. But this was basically just on top of the room. And so I just asked, I said, hey, can you just describe this resort fee? And certainly some of the things that are on your list were not there, right? Or was not part of the service, right? Like we had to pay extra for this, we had to pay extra for this. And in just asking the question, it was like, again, that I was burdening them with asking the question. And they gave me a response back, and it was pulling teeth, trying to get them to understand that not only was there construction of the pool, loud noises, at one point, and it was a little windy, an umbrella just kind of went flying in the air and almost hit my kids. And then I look around, nobody's there to help me, right? Like I had to go and take the umbrella and like put it back in. And then I had to get some tools from the construction people to like screw it back. It was like one of the worst things. So not only was the experience bad, but then in checking out, there was no sort of openness to, hey, you charged me some extra money for services that didn't actually happen. So needless to say, bad experience. Will never, it's a brand, so there's lots of hotels. I probably will never stay at that brand ever again unless I'm forced to. And it was just one of those things where, like those loyalty programs, sometimes loyalty is not loyal, right? And it's the thing that gets me in these things is they don't understand me or where we're coming from, or even have an openness um, to the feedback. So of course I get the survey, and I don't usually answer surveys because they take time, and I think they're clunky these days, which I think AI can help revolutionize surveys, but that's another topic. But we get the survey, I fill it out, I get input from my wife, all that, fill it out, send it in, and I just get this like email back that's like from the hotel manager. Luckily, I got an email back, but it was just like, hey, sorry that happened. Hopefully, you stay with us again. Like, cool, but probably not going to stay with you again because of all the things that happened. May not even stay at that brand. So it was just an experience that it was a bad uh, consumer experience, and it just tainted me and my thoughts on the brand, which happens all the time. And I think as we've talked, how do you, and this is a question for you, Tati, in your experience, how do you create a loyalty program that knows the customer, that is loyal to myself as an individual, knows what I like, right? When I go to a store or I go to a hotel, what's the best way to do that, and what's your experience in terms of good loyalty programs versus bad loyalty?
And just want to add one thing, Tati. I don't think Steve wants a spear to be thrown at his child. Just that's one customer experience. But just make sure that he's
Notch above that would be great.
I'm just like sitting here like, okay, first of all, sorry again. I wish I could tell you this is a unique experience that you had. Unfortunately, it's not. Few comments before we go into how do we solve for this. So the first thing is around. For me, it's been incredible to see the rise of these different fees and what you're referring to as, which is sort of like this adding insult to injury piece, right? There's a ticket seller out there that years ago started adding a convenience fee to their online selling model, which I questioned multiple times, like, why is this is your business model? Why are you charging me a convenience fee for your preferred method of delivering me these tickets? Whereas the very same thing is happening in so many different instances. To your point, you purchased a hotel, you pay for a hotel room at a resort. Why would you be charged a resort fee if you're staying? So I think that there's a piece to that in terms of you start off in the wrong foot because the customer is already feeling like you're taking advantage of them. And it's very hard to turn around from that. So just in my background before retail was in hospitality. I spent over 15 years in hospitality. I spent almost 10 years at the Walt Disney Company. Did you guys know that hotel guests will need to have 12 positive experiences with you to overcome one negative one?
I believe that.
And when you're looking at people switching loyalty programs, over 60% of people will not only switch to a different loyalty program after having a bad experience, but they could be in retail is even worse actually, where people will switch retailers after 32% of people will switch retailers after one poor experience. This is so. A negative review could cost you up to 30 room nights that someone sees. So these are all like hardcore data. If anyone's interested in seeing where I got this from, I have all the sources on this. But you have a tremendous cost to all of this. And what you describe as sort of this, continuous situation in which this happened time and time again. The other comment I want to make is that discovery we had when we're talking about customers in retail, when I worked for Louis Vuitton, we did some extensive research on what will make someone feel welcome when they came into a space. And what you described, Steve, was in so many words exactly what we found out through some extensive research, is feeling that people were happy to see you.
Yeah.
So that was the number one thing, that when you felt that the employee and the person was happy to see you, that was the number one thing in feeling welcome. And from there, you had, and it varies from type of business and from brand, you have a much higher probability. By much higher, I mean 6, 7, 8 times higher probability that of someone will have an overall good experience if they have that moment. So again, these are easy things, right? If we really think about, like, these are the comments I just made here on the things that happen to you, they wouldn't necessarily solve the spear going
Yeah.
which is a whole nother thing on labor, a whole episode on that.
I'll never forget that, ever.
Yeah.
It's you have so many of these opportunities to solve something in such a simple way, right? Not overpromising something that's not available. For example, on the benefits that you already start again on the wrong foot. What I have to share in terms of when I think about AI-enabled loyalty transformation. So companies are really connected right now with relational loyalty. Most of these programs are they're tied to points and tiers, and they're not really changing behavior, because ultimately the measure of a good loyalty program is it changing behavior? Are customers doing something different? Are they staying with you more often? Are they searching for your product more often because of that loyalty program? If you're unsure of the answer is no. And so therefore that loyalty program is only costing you money, is not really doing anything. So a few different ways in which the AI enabled piece really helps. So one thing is real-time personalization, right? So beyond the segmentation, which is the personalization. When you say personalization, people often think, well, if you're in the higher tier, I'm talking about behavior signals. I'm talking about the awareness of the customer journey stage and the intelligence behind it and the prediction of future needs and preferences, right? So you have this emotional intelligence and loyalty design that's really, really important. So how do you recognize customer sentiment? The appropriate response to service disappointment, right? We used to call, when I worked for Disney, this was called service recovery. How do you recover from that opportunity? And there's data behind that. If you recover well from a disappointment, you actually have a loyal customer much faster than you do if that customer never had a bad experience with you, because that's a measure of the strength of your relationship. So it's really, really important to have, and it's anywhere, and to get a new customer versus keeping one that you have will cost you anywhere between 5 and 25 times more. Wow. As a retailer or as a hotel chain, if you will. Yep. So the third thing that I wanted to say is this really the dynamic, the predictive value exchange piece, which is, I talked a little bit about this before, but the dynamic rewards that are based on this predictive customer lifetime value. So it becomes intelligent about not just about what you spend so far or where you are in that, but where you should be. And how often you may not have taken those vacations with me, and I may not have all the data, but you take a lot of vacations. And you should be, my data on your market share is very small, but it should be much higher. You're going somewhere else. So understanding that the AI-driven system can do that.
Can I jump in on one thing, Tati, because you can tell me if I'm just totally basic Alec on this one, but the one thing that I think could cure all this stuff too is, how about a little feedback loop? Right? How about a little bit, just a little bit of if Steve's got to go get his, crafty tools out and fix the spear before it spears the next kid, maybe there should be some feedback that gets back into the operation lead and the GM and so on and so forth. And that email, just thanks, I hope you'll spend more money with us now that we took all your money. Are you crazy? You know what I'm saying? Where's the feedback loop and transparency?
I don't know if you I promise our listeners that we didn't set this up in advance, but that's the fourth point, is the cross-channel consistency, is the memory, right? So what are the past interactions, but not just with you? What do past interactions look like? There's, again, very simple solutions to very simple problems will be that a system understands what Steve complained about and has an empathetic, a solution that will be not only acceptable, but something that Steve will say, yep, this is they understand my issue, right? They understand the concept of service recovery.
And they know who Steve is, which is, I'm very jealous he does this. He goes with his best friends and they pick a different football stadium and go to a football game or whatever. And hey, we're going to take care of your next football. Just that little detail of just knowing that that's what he's about. I'd be wink, wink, awesome, go Belichick. Hopefully he can pay attention to football and not other things. And I know you got the UNC stuff, Steve. So anyhow, I just wanted to jump in on that stuff because I couldn't help myself. I love the subject.
One add-on to the story was, well, first off, the umbrella flew out of the thing twice.
See? My point exactly.
And they didn't really come over until the second. I tried to fix it. I didn't fix it very well. But and then finally we're going to put this thing down and just put it to the side. But there was all construction. It was by the pool, all construction going on behind us, and it was crazy. But kind of the flip side, the same trip, we were actually going to, my daughter is a junior, so we're going to check out a university. And so we were traveling to another city to check out a university. And we checked into a hotel that is one that is a preferred brand that we have a lot of good points with and we utilize a lot. And on check-in, they had drinks, and we checked in late, but they had champagne and red wine and white wine, upon check-in ready for us. And it was just
We're home.
My wife likes champagne, so she gets the champagne. I get the red wine, and after a long day of travel, that's like a perk and a good thing that just is very nice to have, right? As you're just there to check in, relax, and get settled down. So, a flip side of the positive experience versus the negative experience, and your numbers, Tati, around the experiences side are spot on, right? If you get a bad experience, you're off of that brand. If you get a good experience, then you're going to go to that place many, many times.
And I'm going to rant and rave because we went past our 15-minute mark. So we got a couple extra minutes. So this is crazy to me. So it's that simple, retailers. Steve and his wife like different types of alcohol upon arrival. Just figure it out, right? And then you take care of him. Don't throw spears at his kids and it'll be fine. He'll come back. He likes to watch football. Like, how hard is it to put these pieces together and then drive that loyalty and then have a long-standing, highly lucrative, great relationship with Steve and his family versus throwing spears at kids, being rude, and then asking for more money twice?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that strikes me is that with technology, what we're talking about, what we're describing here is today is so simple.
So simple.
And it's impossible. What technology will do for you, it makes it impossible to forget this, or it makes it impossible for it not to happen. This is a concept that I've always applied in my operational career, is make it hard for something that you don't want to happen, right? So make it hard for someone to do something they shouldn't be doing, and vice versa. Make it hard for them not to follow. And this is not hard, it's impossible. If you do it the right way, if you have the data, it's not that complicated. All I gotta do is say, Steve likes red wine, his wife likes champagne. Every time they come to any one of my properties, that should be there, available, ready. Alec and I have an ongoing story about a hospitality location out there
that should know better.
Frequents on a regular basis. They should know better. This should be happening, and yet every time it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Every time you go in there and you have to introduce yourself,
Yeah.
and you have to ask for the same things, and sometimes even to make the matters worse, that you get someone that's inexperienced that will tell you, "I'm not sure we can do that." And you say, "I've been here 45 times. What do you mean you can't do that?" So, anyways, I think we beat this point.
Well, 100%. But we'll end on a positive, right? So here's the thing, and again, world's worst shopper and yada yada. But I'm quite comfortable with all this AI stuff, right? Hence the conversation. So if you want to get to know people with kind of my persona, just get to know us once and then act off it 1,000 times, and we'll just keep coming back for more. That's all you got to do. So when Steve and the fam show up, they feel like they're home when you just do something as subtle and as simple as like, here's a red wine, here's a champagne, here's a warm chocolate chip cookie for whomever, which I would take the chocolate chip cookie for sure.
Love the cookies.
Always.
My daughters love the cookies. Always good.
Who doesn't, Except for there's like walnuts in there, but that's a whole other conversation. So this is good.
The tagline is as easy as cookies.
Right? Come on, little things. All right, we're going to wrap this one up. This is a good one. Another one coming. See ya.